I know that you are deeply involved with Hericium. I must say, I've been also consuming Hericium regularly myself for quite some time. And the research on this mushroom, especially concerning Alzheimer's and dementia, has truly fascinated me. So perhaps we can take a closer look at Hericium at this point. Hericium is known by various names: lion's mane, monkey head mushroom, and probably many more.
It's called pom-pom blanc in France and yamabushi take in Japan. So there are quite a few names. Lion's mane is a name you hear often. It's the common English name for it. I have one here that I can show you. Wait, where's my camera? Here it is. You can't really see the spines right now because it's a bit blurry. Maybe it'll come into focus, but it has these small hanging spines, which is where the name lion's mane comes from.
And what's special about this mushroom is that it can be eaten as a food mushroom and also used as a medicinal mushroom, right?
That's right. It actually occurs naturally here in the temperate zones. You mainly find it on beech and oak, but it has become very rare lately, mostly due to forestry practices that remove dead wood from the forest instead of leaving it. But you can still find it, and it has always been and still is a highly sought-after mushroom because of its flavor. It tastes absolutely fantastic. I don't even know how to describe it, but many people say it has a seafood-like taste, similar to lobster or shrimp, and it can be prepared wonderfully. When you fry it, it becomes really crispy, and if you press it with a second pan on top, you can make a steak that can truly rival the flavor experience of a real meat product.
This means I can definitely include Hericium as an edible mushroom in my diet. Does the mushroom, when cooked, have a similar effect as if I were taking it in powder form or as a tincture?
Yes and no. It does have its effects, but it also greatly depends on how the mushroom is prepared or processed, which influences how effective it can be. When you cook it, many cells remain intact, preventing the release of their active ingredients, because the cell wall contains a component that our body can't break down. That's chitin. And that's also why mushrooms can sometimes be hard on the stomach. That's the chitin. It's the same substance that makes up insect exoskeletons. And if you've ever eaten insects, you'll notice that the exoskeletons come out intact. Our body can't break it down, and we can sometimes react a bit sensitively to it. But heat breaks down chitin. So if you prepare the mushrooms in a way that breaks down as much chitin as possible and releases the ingredients, they can be quite easy to digest and medicinally effective. And you achieve that, for example, when you take champignons as an example. When you sauté them, you don't just throw them in the pan with oil. Instead, you put the slices in the pan with a little water. Then you let them simmer for a bit, and that releases the moisture. You know how mushrooms always swim in liquid when you put them in the pan? You can encourage that by adding a little more water, about 5 millimeters in the pan, and then adding the mushroom slices and cooking them well. Eventually, the liquid evaporates and the mushrooms absorb the flavors again. Then you add butter to the pan and sauté them until they're a bit crispy.
Would you do the same with the lion's mane mushroom?
I would actually do that with all mushrooms because it greatly enhances their digestibility.
Okay, because you just showed it so nicely. Do you grow them yourself?
I do grow them myself, yes. It's not that difficult if you have a basic understanding of the subject. Basically, kitchen hygiene conditions are enough when working with mushroom spawn from a grower. There are steps in mushroom cultivation that need to be done under sterile conditions. You either feel confident to do it and set up the appropriate environment, or you can also do it in front of a Bunsen burner. But it requires some microbiological tools to ensure the mycelium on the nutrient medium is isolated and not contaminated by other bacteria or spores from the air, as they usually grow faster and contaminate everything. You have to imagine that every cubic meter of air contains at least 200,000 bacterial and fungal spores. So they're swarming all around. And if you're working with a small mycelium and want to propagate it, it has to be done cleanly. This must be done under sterile conditions. There are mushrooms that are easy to grow, like the oyster mushroom, which is quite hardy. You can also experiment in the kitchen if you pick up a pack of oyster mushrooms at Aldi. You can put the stems in coffee grounds, fresh from the machine, but don't let it sit too long, or other mushrooms might start growing in it. Put it all in a clean jar, just a small amount, and wait until it turns white. Once the mycelium has colonized the coffee grounds, add more coffee until the jar is full. The fruiting bodies will typically start to emerge on top.
Oh, wow. So just the stems, right?
Just the stem ends that you'd normally throw away. Or if you were working in a sterile environment, you'd tear the mushroom open, cut a small piece from the center with a clean scalpel, and place it on an agar medium. I don't have a Petri dish handy to show you, but you can see it on my website, for example. On this Petri dish, there's a gel that resembles gummy bears in texture, essentially agar-agar with some sugar compounds as nutrients. Then, the mycelium grows on it, and you can take a piece of this agar and place it into sterile grain that you've cooked in a pressure cooker, in a jar with a small hole in the lid, covered with some teddy bear stuffing or a Band-Aid, to allow some air exchange but keep other critters out. It then grows throughout the jar, and you have the grain which you can use once colonized by the mycelium to inoculate a wood substrate. The simplest method is to buy wood pellets, put them in a bag, and pour boiling water over them. The bag also needs a filter opening. There are special mushroom cultivation bags for this purpose. Then you wait for it to cool down, and you can pour your jar of mushroom spawn into it, and after a few weeks, you'll have a block.
Oh, wow. Agar-agar, for those who aren't familiar, is commonly used as a thickening agent in vegan and vegetarian cooking.
Exactly. For anyone interested, there are plenty of resources online, including cultivation guides and businesses that sell mushroom spawn. I'd advise a beginner to start with a ready-made culture. There are various suppliers that offer these blocks, like the one I just showed, fully colonized for around 20 euros. You can take one home and let it fruit initially, then see how it progresses from there. From my experience, once someone starts, those who want to continue will stick with it.
Awesome. I think I'd like to start doing that myself. Let's take a closer look at Hericium, as it has amazing benefits for our physical and mental health.
What makes it special is that it supports the gut-brain axis. It has a positive effect on both the gut flora and the brain. Anyone who delves into holistic healing knows that the gut plays a crucial role in overall health. And with our modern diet and the daily stress we face generally, it's really challenging to maintain a healthy gut these days, let's put it that way.
I totally agree with you, yes.
And if that's not the case, the immune system goes haywire, because it's said that 60% of the immune system is located in the gut lining. And if it's not intact, it just doesn't function properly anymore. And if it stays damaged for a longer period, it becomes increasingly difficult to regain stability, as a condition known as gut dysbiosis sets in. This condition is now referred to as SIBO, or small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, which is an overgrowth of bacteria in the gut that primarily feed on sugar and then release substances that make us ill. And getting rid of them is quite challenging. Hericium contains components that act as prebiotics, promoting the lactic acid flora that should be present. These are sugar compounds that only lactic acid bacteria can consume, while others cannot. They are gradually starved out when a high amount of prebiotics is introduced. This includes inulin and other substances, but mushrooms generally contain a lot of it, and Hericium even more so. It also contains compounds that specifically eliminate putrefactive bacteria, acting as an antibacterial against those that don't belong in our gut. It further selectively supports lactic acid bacteria and includes substances that help strengthen the gut lining. The gut lining is often compromised, and lactic acid bacteria need it to thrive and establish themselves. Studies have shown that consuming Hericium increases the thickness of the gut lining. This is crucial, especially in the context of leaky gut, where the gut cells are spaced apart. The gut lining is only one cell layer thick. When the cells separate and are no longer connected, gaps form, known as leaky gut, allowing macromolecules to enter the bloodstream, triggering immune reactions. These gaps need to be closed, and Hericium is very effective in doing so. And so, it has cognitive effects also because it influences the gut. It has been shown that there is a strong connection between gut bacteria and our emotions. Depression is sometimes linked to inflammation in the gut, for example. And when we treat the gut, the depression often subsides. In this way, Hericium helps combat depression and anxiety disorders, among other things. It also contains remarkable compounds like erinaceus and hericinones, which act directly on the brain and cross the blood-brain barrier. And they signal the genes in our brain cells to release more of a substance called NGF. This is a protein complex responsible for the repair and growth of nerve cells. With Hericium, up to 10 times more of it can be produced. NGF production naturally decreases due to cellular aging. This means that as people age, they produce less NGF, making the brain less able to regenerate and carry out learning processes. Learning processes are marked by the formation of actual neural pathways. Once a habit is ingrained, you eventually don't have to think about it. Driving was initially difficult to learn, but we can all do it once we have a driver's license. And there is a neural map of that. If you want to change a habit, it needs to be rewritten. A new path must be established, practiced, and reinforced. This becomes increasingly difficult with age because NGF is needed. And if you take Hericium, you suddenly have 10 times more NGF available. And everything related to learning processes just goes smoothly. Unfortunately, when you stop taking it, the level drops back to normal. So it's wise to engage in cultivating Hericium as you age. Then you won't have this problem anymore.